Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. On behalf of Manila House, this is Bambina Olivares, the Director of Programming, welcoming members and non-members alike to today's online conversation about one of the most popular topics of the day, the Golden Visa, specifically the Golden Visa to Portugal, touted as the European Union's most affordable Golden Visa program. This is presented in partnership with Golden Visa Centrale. If this is your first time to join us online, allow me to introduce Manila House. We are a private members club that opened in February 2017 with the aim of bringing together an assemblage of people from the business, creative, cultural, and intellectual communities who are drawn to each other by a shared interest to continuously learn about art, culture, food, business, and politics, and from the diversity of their fellow members themselves. It is a community of curious, committed, and caring individuals, and it lives on beyond the physical confines of the club. We began our webinar series in May 2020, covering and encouraging discussion about a range of topical issues from business and investment to health and wellness and art and culture. We have featured both local and international speakers and continue to broaden our reach among members and non-members alike. Our previous webinars are available for viewing on the Manila House YouTube channel. That said, for the non-members among us, you might like to consider membership to Manila House. We have a limited number of memberships still available. Please email membership@manilahouseInc.com for more information. Before we begin, just a few ground rules. This event is being recorded and live streamed and will be up on the Manila House YouTube channel in a day or two. Please use the chat box and the Q&A box for any questions and comments, and we'll get to your questions as we go along. Thank you very much. So allow me to introduce today's speakers and the theme of today's presentation, which focuses on a world of growing instability, how more and more people are starting to regard second passports and residencies as a good investment. Many countries are open to what is known as a Golden Visa scheme, subject to an investment in property. Portugal's Golden Visa scheme is particularly accessible, and it's no wonder that it's so popular. Here to tell us more are a team of experienced advisors who will take care of everything should you decide to apply for this visa program, from the properties you might want to invest in to the legal processes involved. First up, we have a very good friend of Manila House and a member herself, Vicky Luis. Vicky Luis she's the president of Golden Visa Centrale, and she graduated in California and has been in the real estate and mortgage industry in the San Francisco Bay Area since the mid-90s. Vicky is one of the pioneers who brought the Portugal Golden Visa program to the Philippines and has had numerous sales with a 100% success rate. Also joining us today is Rosalia Torres, who's a partner with Irish Capital Partners. She has a master's in science degree in economics from the University of Carlos III in Madrid, Spain. She has 12 years of banking experience in Spain and the UAE, covering the real estate market, among other key industries. She moved to overseas real estate advisory and immigration through property investment and specialized in global wealth creation and second citizenship solutions through cross-border real estate investment and development by founding the companies Al España Properties and Global Minds, which later on merged to become Irish Capital Partners. Also with us today is Rakesh Majitya, Chief Investment Officer of Irish Capital Partners. Rakesh is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. He joined Preeminent Investment Bank in 2000, where he spent 10 years working on a variety of investment, banking, and real estate financing transactions. He moved to the hedge fund industry as a partner in 2010. He established himself as a real estate investor in 2013 and co-founded Aram Capital Limited. Finally, also with us today is Andre Miranda, who's founding and managing partner at Pinto Rivero Advogados. Andre graduated from the Lisbon Nova School of Law. He joined a top-tier international law firm based in Lisbon. From 2005 to 2011, he held several high-level positions in the Portuguese government, initially as legal advisor, then chief of staff, and also director at the presidency of the Council of Ministers and at the Ministry of Justice. In 2011, he established himself as an independent lawyer, and then in 2014, he co-founded AM Advogados. In 2018, he co-founded Pinto Rivero Advogados. He has a diverse legal practice with an emphasis on strategic advice to national and international individual clients in various areas of law, notably in real estate and immigration. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're in very good hands today, very experienced people. And at this point, I'll turn you over to Vicky Luis. Vicky?
Thank you so much, Bambina. Good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We are so pleased to be here with you. My name is Vicky Luis. I am the president of Golden Visa Centrale, and I'm also a fellow Manila House member, as Bambina had mentioned. Today, we will share why the Golden Visa of Portugal is the gateway to Europe, and as well as the process that it entails to embark on this program, plus, of course, the benefits of having a second residency. I introduced the Golden Visa of Portugal to the Philippines back in 2019 with the same people that are here that frequent the Philippines. And I am proud to say that we have had 100% success rate in processing Golden Visa applications. I was so passionate about the program when I started, as I felt it could help a lot of people, especially my fellow Filipinos. I also have a daughter that will eventually go into university. And I learned how much savings I could have as a parent if she went to school abroad as a local resident instead of a foreign student. I was so excited to know that once one gets their residency card in Portugal, as Filipinos with your Filipino passport, you no longer need a Schengen visa. Isn't that wonderful? Additionally, with only one investment of 280,000, you can bring 3 generations of your family. I said this is an amazing program, right? So there's absolutely no need to relocate. You simply need to go to Portugal and visit at least 7 days a year. And these are just some of the benefits, after which you can live, once you get your residency card, you can live, work, study, avail of the free healthcare in Portugal. That's a big one. And eventually in the European Union. After obtaining your passport, after only 5 years of the residency, you will now be visa-free to over 180 countries, including the US, Canada, Australia, and so on. So it is really a great program, and I can't tell you enough how excited I am to introduce the team that's with me today, beginning with one of my favorite developers, Rakesh and Rosalia. So Rosalia Torres is the head of international sales and markets of Irish Capital Partners, and she's been to Manila so many times, guys, and knows so many people in Manila. Hi, Rosalia.
Hello, hi, Vicky. Happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, Rakesh is very important. He's also a director from Irish Capital, chief investment officer, and as well as, one of my favorite developers that's in the Philippines with me all the time with Rosie. Hi, Rakesh. Happy New Year.
Hi, Vicky. Happy New Year, everyone.
I'm so excited to introduce one of my favorite people, who's actually my partner law firm in Portugal, here joined by the founding partner and managing partner of Pinto Ribeiro, attorney Andre Miranda. Hello, Andre.
Hello, Vicky. Hello, everyone. Thank you again for inviting me for this interesting webinar. And Happy New Year to everyone as well.
Thank you. And of course, we're also joined by attorney Rafaela. Hi, Rafaela. Good morning. Hello, in Portugal.
Vicky. Hello, Vicky. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me for this webinar.
Yes, and of course, my assistant is here, Ims. He will be assisting us once you get on board with us. We will all be here. But for now, let me turn you over to Rakesh so we can begin with our webinar.
Great. So thank you again, Vicky, and Happy New Year to everyone. I look forward to sort of progressing these series of discussions. I think we're on series 8 now of these discussions, and we're also going to be back in Manila, I think, at the end of February. So perhaps we'll have the opportunity to meet in person. I think today's webinar is very much set up in a way that we can take people on a little bit of a journey through Portugal for those of you that have not had the chance to go, or indeed this may be revision for people that have had the chance to visit Portugal. But we have an introduction to Irish, who we are and what we do as a company. We then talk about the country of Portugal, the economy, the government, the real estate market, Then Andre and Rafaela will be talking you through the Golden Visa program, how you can access it and what the qualifying conditions are. And then lastly, we land on our recent developments, which are available for people to invest in. And indeed, they are Golden Visa eligible. So if I can, what I will do is I will use the aid of our presentation to talk you through. So let me just share the screen. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see the slides. Let me just set this up one more time. Perfect. So starting at the beginning with a quick introduction to Arish, who we are and what we do. So we are a real estate investment and development company. We've been going now for coming up to 12 years. We have our offices in London. That is indeed where our head office is. We have offices in Dubai, which is where I and Rosalia sit in terms of the sales and operations team. And then obviously we have an office in Lisbon, which really looks after all of our Portuguese assets. Just to give people an idea of the type of investments that we've been doing over the past 12 years, initially our focus was very much on the UK central London market, where we invested in what I would call niche investment sectors, such as student accommodation, care homes for the elderly, as well as residential and commercial schemes. Many of those we went on to exit institutionally, so we sold to pension companies, insurance companies. Others we continue to sit as part of our own sort of yield portfolio. Around 4.5, 5 years ago, when Brexit got announced, we decided to expand our European footprint. And having done quite a bit of due diligence across various EU countries, including Spain and Germany, etc., we very much became bought into the Portugal story. We like the macroeconomics there, we like the stability in the government, and we think that there's various factors that overall support real estate investing. So if you fast forward to today now, we're actually have done several now projects in the Golden Visa space. This is just a snapshot of some of those. And indeed, actually, we have other investments and interests in Portugal as well, which are more proprietary in nature, but shows our commitment to the country in terms of investment. So, for example, we're building out a student accommodation facility for Lisbon University as part of their offering to their students. Now, just as a starter question, and I think this is a very reasonable question to be asking for anyone looking at an investment overseas, is why invest? Why invest in Portugal? And we ourselves had that very same question 5 years ago when we were deciding where to invest outside of the UK. And I think it's sensible that we share with you what our investment hypothesis was in terms of moving forward with an investment. And in fact, it's actually quite simple. We have a 3-pronged test that we want to apply to any investment overseas. And that is, first of all, we want to understand the government and the stability of the government in that country. And is it encouraging to foreign direct investment? So that's the first test. Secondly, we want to understand the nature of the economy. Is it mature? Is it well diversified? Is it robust? And then thirdly, we obviously want to understand the micro performance of the asset class that we're investing in. In this case, it's real estate. So we want to understand the landscape of real estate in that country. Is it mature? Is it emergent, etc.? If we can tick those 3 things off, then we have the makings of what we would call a smart investment. Smart why? Because as complicated as sometimes these things can sound, property in its core is actually very simple. You want it to behave in a very predictable way. You want it to provide you with income and yield, and also you want it to be able to deliver you some sort of capital growth. So if you can have that and you tick these 3 tests off, that's a good starting point. In this particular case, you also get the added benefit in that some of these investments, if you pick the right one, also lead to Golden Visa benefits, which ultimately provide for you and your families residency and a passport. So with that said, let me pass you over to Rosalia, who can talk you through some of those 3 tests that we applied, starting with a quick introduction to the country of Portugal itself. So Rosie, over to you.
Thank you, Rek. And good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for being with us today. So as you heard until now, we are here today to be as informative as we can with regards to the Golden Visa program and the residency possibilities that it offers, later on also the citizenship, and to give the information about the investment opportunities that are going to take you to this program. These are therefore the road that will drive you to Portugal to become one day citizen of the country. So for us, it is a key factor also that we give you some context about Portugal, about the country, economy, etc., which now my colleague was referring to. Portugal, for those that have not been yet, it is a European country in the south of Europe, beautiful Mediterranean, great weather, sunny throughout all the year with over 3,000 hours of sun. It is a very, very international country. So one of the things that amazes every tourist that arrives for the first time to Portugal is that you're able to speak English with almost everyone. So the Portuguese have been always very much open because of the geographical situation and their connection with Europe, with the US, with Latin America, and they're able to change from Portuguese to English to Spanish with a very, very fluent level. So over 60% of their population speaks English, and this is also in the road sign, in every airport sign, etc., is always dual language. It is actually, as much as it is a country that is very, very modern in Europe, it's actually still very affordable in cost, and it has a high quality of life. So we have, as we said, a country that is actually quite attractive for many people in terms of lifestyle. But not only that, it's a country that has lots of opportunities in terms of business. It's modern, it's prosperous, and has very advanced infrastructures. There is also something that gets actually quite a big attention when you get to Portugal for the first time. It is those roads and airports, the hospitals, the universities. The government has done a great job in investment in public infrastructures, and you can see that, which actually is something very, very relevant for any of you that are considered in this program, because Portugal offers healthcare and healthcare and education that is for free for all citizens and residents. So universal access to healthcare and to education. So if we move on to the government, which is quite relevant when you consider to invest in the country, Portugal is, of course, a democracy since 1976. It is a country that is actually very progressive with all their policies, and it's very much encouraging direct investment. One more thing that is always on the news and very much appreciated by all our investors is that Portugal is the third safest country in the world. So we are talking about Europe, we are talking about a country that is open, many nationalities, but still they actually managed to be third safest country worldwide, and this is only after Iceland and New Zealand. It is also worldwide the second healthiest country, and this means in terms of the food, the pollution or the absence of it, etc. So all these, I think, are very important rankings when we consider to have this second passport and potentially one day live in the country or being able to do that. Economy. A very, very strong economy that is growing very fast since the financial crisis of 2008, 2009. It was actually one of the economies that recovered the strongest, and is always studying all the universities across Europe because it actually managed to become a lot stronger than it was pre-crisis. It is economy that is very much diversified, so doesn't really rely on the sectors of tourism or real estate, despite that they are both quite strong. But it has manufacture, it has textile, and it has actually a sector that is very relevant at the moment, which is the technology sector. It became one of the biggest tech hubs, not only actually European, but also worldwide, very, very relevant. We see these across actually many of the international big names that are moving to Portugal, whether it is their European headquarters or their technology divisions. We see every year many of these companies landing with all the teams, and therefore many of the expat populations are actually growing quite fast. So what does it mean with all of these? These also translate to the real estate market. The real estate market, because of this booming economy, because all these expat community that is growing, especially on the high power of acquisition level, we see that Portugal has been growing on real estate prices since 2014, stable every year, from 5% to 12%. Last year it was actually at 9%. But the good thing about Portugal is that despite the fact that it's been continuously growing, remains to be very much undervalued against the other neighbor countries in Europe. And this is what gave us at the time of exploring Europe, this is what attracted us to Portugal. It is a country of opportunities. It is a country where we expect to continue growing on prices on real estate, and we aim to have those good returns if we invest in property. And with this, we are going to now learn about the Golden Visa program, how to access it, what are the benefits, and what are all the details. And I will leave you in the best hands. Andre, over to you now.
Thank you very much, Rosalia. Again, thank you very much for everyone that is attending this webinar. So as you saw, Portugal is a very attractive country in terms of the stability, in terms of the capacity to attract investment. I'm going to talk about this Portuguese Golden Visa program, which was introduced already 10 years ago. So it was introduced in the end of 2012. And as you can see, the numbers are quite astonishing. So we have more than 10,000 applicants. Maybe now in the beginning of 2023, already we are near the 11,000 applicants, plus many more in terms of family members, because it's possible to include with your investment also your family members who will be able to benefit as well from this program. This has been a considerable, this has been a program that has attracted a considerable amount of money. You see that more than 6 billion euros for a small economy as Portugal. This is very important. And so the government has been keeping this program as a way to attract foreign investment, individual foreign investment. There are different ways to get this residency permit for investors, many ways of investment. The most attractive and the one that offers more options is investment in real estate. Is nowadays, I think, around 80 to 90% of the clients that invested in Portugal and got their residency permits did it through property investment. There are different options in terms of the property investment. You can go from a minimum 280,000 euros and to 500,000 euros. Then there are other options of investment that are not so popular, like investment in private equity funds, investment funds, or even transfer of capital or creation of job positions through the setting up in companies here and hiring people to these companies. I would now ask your attention to some of the main points and main features of the program. So the requirements, the program is quite easy to comply with. So this is a program where you just need, of course, to provide evidence to the immigration authorities that you are complying with the requirements. One of the requirements is, of course, doing the investment. So by transferring the funds to Portugal and providing evidence that you made an investment, you will be able to start the process. Also, you need to produce and to disclose some of your personal documentation, passport, provide clean criminal record. Basically, in the Philippines, getting the certificate from the NBI, okay, with a clean sheet. After getting all this documentation, you will be able to submit your application. This, of course, is going to be done with all our assistants. So the law firm will basically prepare everything for you, guide you, and provide all the assistance required for this process. In terms of the requirements to keep, because first you get a residency card, but then every 2 years you need to renew the residency permit. The requirements are quite easy as well. You need to keep the investment, so you cannot sell the property. And then there's a stay requirement, which is in Portugal very, very low, only 7 days per year. So this is a very, very easy complying scheme. So if you consider the 5-year period, it will be 5 weeks. So very easy. And then in the end, you will be able to access the Portuguese citizenship. As I said before, besides the main applicant, you can also include family members, meaning 3 generations from your children, parents, spouse, parents-in-law. So it's a quite broad, and it's also very common that we are assisting not only the applicant but also all their family members. The residency card, it's actually a legal. You get a legal residency status, so you do not need to live here on a permanent basis, but you are considered to be a legal resident in Portugal. There's also a very important consideration, which is the fact that you get this residency permit will not affect your tax status. So this means that you become legal resident, but you do not become tax resident in Portugal. So this is not going to affect your tax situation. So Portugal, by the fact that you become legal resident, is not going to charge on any of your income that you get abroad. You will only be paying taxes on the income that is generated in Portugal. So if you make a property investment and this investment provides you return with a rent, then you paid a taxation on this rent. And then the important question, okay, after 5 years, because the government establishes a minimum 5-year period, which you need to keep the residency permit, you will be able to step into the next stage. And you have here 2 options. For those that want to get the Portuguese citizenship, they can submit their application. So they will complete the 5-year period of residency. Plus, they will need to provide a level A2 certificate. This can be done either by passing an exam, a Portuguese exam, or attending special online courses, a minimum number of classes that you can attend. But in the end, you get a certificate, level A2 certificate. And with these 2 requirements, so with the completion of the 5-year period of investment and of legal residency, plus the language qualification, you will be able to submit your Portuguese citizenship application. For those that do not want to get the citizenship, but they want to have a more permanent status, they can also submit the permanent residency permit. This is also applicable for many countries where where there's only they do not allow multiple citizenship. It can happen, for example, in China or India, and people do not want to withdraw their citizenship, so they will step into the permanent residency permit. Now, in terms of the costs, besides the investment, so in any of those thresholds that I mentioned before, from 280,000 until 500,000, you also need to consider some government fees. There are fees that are paid when you start the process. We call it the application fees, but there are also fees that are paid when you get the card. So 533 euros for the application fees, and there are around 5,000 euros for the residency card. After getting the card, for each renewal, you need to pay 3,000 euros. So what is important to consider is that for a family, let's say of 4 people, which is typically couple plus 2 children, you should consider additionally 50,000 euros of government fees, of cost that you need to pay to the Portuguese government.
Okay, so thank you for that, Andre. Maybe just to have a checkpoint, I think so far in terms of that journey, we've heard a little bit about the country of Portugal, the economy, the government, the real estate market. Andre's now just set out in summary format how one can access the Golden Visa program and what qualifying conditions are. And before I move on to the final section, which is really just going through our developments that are available for investment and indeed are Golden Visa eligible, I wanted to play a quick video because there are various benefits in someone becoming a Golden Visa and subsequently a citizen of Portugal, not least, if not for them, as parents, sometimes the more important driver is really for our children and indeed our children's education. And I know that Vicky had gone through this process herself when she was thinking about it a few years ago. And I think this video really does highlight some of the efficiencies from an economic perspective, what this can mean for those of you that have children that potentially will be going to university in years to come, and the savings that can be achieved just by becoming a European citizen. So I'm going to play the video now, which is a short video, and then we can move to the next section.
Did you know non-European students pay more than 10 times the tuition fees than European citizens for the same education degree in Europe? Yes, you heard me right. Brandon from Ireland pays €3,000 tuition fees per year, while John pays €45,000, both studying medicine in Dublin. Even more concerning, John, as a non-EU citizen, may not be able to live and work in Europe after graduating. So, as parents, what can we do? Easy. Have you heard about the Portuguese Golden Visa program? 1. Invest in an eligible property for as low as €350,000. 2. Obtain your Portuguese residency card. 3. Spend as little as 7 days a year in Portugal for 5 years. 4. Apply for you and your family's citizenship to acquire a lifetime of European rights and benefits. Hurry up and don't miss out on this limited window of opportunity.
Okay, so hopefully that really short video highlights some of the efficiencies that you can achieve for your children's education by becoming a citizen of Portugal. And I think that takes us quite nicely onto sort of the developments that we have available. And I think maybe one thing to set out up front is that actually when Andre went through the type of investments that you can make to access the Golden Visa program, as it relates to property, there are broadly two types of investments that one can make, and they are subject to where those property are located and what types of property they are. So because of some of the changes to the Golden Visa program, it is no longer possible to invest in residential assets in the city centres of Lisbon, Porto, and the Algarve and still have Golden Visa eligibility. Put differently, you can invest in a fancy penthouse apartment, which may be lovely in the centre of Lisbon city centre, for 5 million, say. And whilst that may be a great investment, that will not be Golden Visa eligible. What it is possible still to do, if you are wanting to invest in the city centre for various reasons, you can still invest in commercial assets in Lisbon and Porto, provided that they are a certain type of asset, i.e. a renovation project. So we have here two developments that we're going to be talking you through. One is a commercial investment within the city centre of Lisbon, which we expect to be very popular. We are literally soft launching it today. So you'll be one of the first people that will be hearing about it. But if you are not inclined to go for a commercial investment and prefer a residential investment, that is still possible, but you must be located in an area outside of Lisbon and Porto in what is defined as a low density area. So we also have a residential project too. So starting with the commercial investment, which is called Sosa Urban Lisbon. It is in fact a commercial development of an existing office building. So it will be converted into sort of modern offices, flexible co-working spaces. And the investment amount in order for it to qualify under the Golden Visa is a minimum amount of €350,000. So starting with the location, because obviously investment in property is always about location. This is a map of Avenida Liberdade. Now, Avenida Liberdade, for those of you who are not aware, is the main artery of the city centre of Lisbon. It's the equivalent of, I guess, Ayala in Manila. It is a very exclusive boulevard. It is where all the 5-star international hotels are. And it's also where I've highlighted in green, it's also the area known as Central Business District 1. Now, this asset, Liberty Lisbon, is a commercial asset that we launched last year, and it was on Avenida Liberdade, and many of your countrymen have also invested within this particular commercial investment. It sold out extremely quick. And the new asset actually is not too far from here. In fact, it's 7 minutes away, and it's SOSA urban. Now, as I mentioned, the asset has to be of a particular type. In this case, it's a commercial project, and it also needs to be of a particular development style, i.e. it must be a renovation project in order for it to qualify under the Golden Visa conditions. So the building does exist at the moment. It's more than 30 years old, but it is old and it needs a lot of love and care and renovation and attention. And that is exactly what we intend on doing with the asset. It's located in the prime business district, as I mentioned, in Central Business District 1. It has over 5,000 square meters in terms of space, and it will ultimately be operated as modern offices and flexible co-working spaces. Now, before I go into any more detail about the location itself, I think it's useful if I highlight up front what the investment proposition is, so you can have that in the front of your mind. And really, this is focused on audiences that want, I guess, a couple of things. They, are probably primarily driven by wanting to achieve a golden visa. But secondly, they want to be invested in a city center location because in their minds, probably for correct reasons, they attach the most value in terms of store of value of their investment in city center locations. So they want the golden visa, they want to be in a city center, and they want to have a natural entry point and an exit point, i.e. once they've realized their golden visa ambitions and citizenship, they want to get rid of their assets. So this is very much focused on that type of investor, meaning that the investor comes in with the investment amount at year zero for 350,000, and keeping in mind what I just said, by the end of the investment period, by which I mean once the investor has achieved their golden visa and citizenship in ambitions, you're no longer required to hold an investment in Portugal. There is also an exit point, which is at year 8, and it's a mandatory buyback of the investment at the market value in 8 years' time, minus 10%. So you have an entry point and an exit point. And along the way, you have the ability to earn some income on your investment. In this case, you have from years 1 to 3 fixed returns of 2% for the first 3 years. And thereafter, from years 4 to 7, there's fixed returns of 3%. Any period after those 7 years, so the period between year 7 and 8, it goes on to a market rent. So whatever the building tenants are paying, you would receive a portion of. The good thing is, and this is part of a promotion, actually, the years 1 to 3, where you receive fixed returns of 2% for 3 years, as part of the promotion, we'll be paying that to the first 25 investors up front. So when they invest their 350,000, they'll actually get back approximately 21,000 straight away at the time of their investment. So that helps people's cash flow, anticipations, etc. We'll come on to explain that in a little bit more detail, but that's the investment in summary format. Now, going back to the location, I think it's important that you understand the micro-location as well as possible over Zoom. And this is really a snapshot of the main artery of Lisbon. This is Avenida Liberdade, this is Marcos Pombal, this is the main park. And this shows you within a 0.7 kilometer radius who your neighbors are, who your tenants are from a commercial perspective, and whether it's KPMG, law firms, PwC, Quattro Casas in terms of law firms. I think, Andre, your law firm is located in this area as well. You have also the 5-star hotels. Avenida Liberdade is where all of the shoppers' paradise is. So within a 0.7 kilometer radius, you have 28 what I would call AAA tenants. So you're in good company to start with, because this is exactly where our asset is. You can see there's SOSA Urban. We're nestled in between the Sheraton Hotel and a mall. Now, if you zoom out a little bit and you take into account the wider Lisbon conurbation in terms of commercial tenants, you can see here that you have a list across Lisbon city centre of 62 AAA tenants ranging from Samsung, Coca-Cola, Google, etc. And again, it's important to see that we're in the center of all of that occupation, if you like. And the reason why this is important is because overall there's 62 AAA tenants, but as I said, within our 0.7 kilometer radius, we actually have a third of those tenants, which is 21. So again, it gives you an illustration and some appreciation of how important Central Business District 1 and this location is. Now, as well as being a super prime location from a retailing point of view, from a commerce point of view, there's a reason partly for that, and it's because of its connectivity. Obviously, if you're looking at offices, then you want it to be very well connected for the people that may be working in the center of town. And you can see here, this is a metro map of the city center of Lisbon. And in fact, within a 4 to 6 minute walking distance, we're at the intersection of 3 very important metro stops. In fact, it's Marcos Pombal, it's Park Station, as well as Pecoa. So again, adding to the prime nature of this location, it's not only prime just because of the tenants that are there, but also because of its connectivity to the metro system as well. Now, I mentioned Avenida Liberdade. Avenida Liberdade was in fact where our old asset Liberty was last year. But again, we're 7 minutes walk from here. And again, it's very important to understand the context of the location, because you have all of these important shops near you, Emporio Armani, Versace, etc., and the list goes on. And this is a 7 minute walk from the asset itself. Now, because we're talking about offices, and in fact, we've focused a lot by saying flexible office spaces, co-working, etc., it's important to understand what the competition is. And in this case, it's good for us to understand that competition, because competition is healthy. And within a 3 to sort of 15 minute walking distance, you have several flexible office providers, whether it's Ideas, Spaces. This is in Marcos Pombal, Spaces, and this is in fact where the Irish offices are. But these are demonstrative of actually how much in demand office space is in this prime Central Business District 1. WeWorks has in fact landed now, and they will be launching, I think, in the middle of this year. But just to give you an idea of how these other operators are performing, I think it's fair to say that they are all between 90 and 100% occupied. That illustrates the demand that we have within the location. And here you can see how much they are charging in terms of per desk per month. And these rates are very healthy. So I think overall, this demonstrates that there is a demand for the product in the location. Now, all of this is important because when you're looking at a commercial asset, unlike residential assets, which can be quite subjective in the way that they're valued, commercial assets are quite simple across Europe in terms of how they're valued. It's simply taking the income that the commercial operation generates and then applying a capitalization rate to that income flow to work out the end value. Now, this is an independent valuation of the asset, and it takes into account the trophy asset location, the comparables in the area, etc. And this values the building at just over 47 million post the renovation. Now, if you do some simple maths there, if every investor is coming in at 350,000 investment, that makes room for approximately 135 investors. On our other asset, which sold out in approximately 12 weeks, Liberty, that had 101 investors. So we are also expecting there to be very good demand for this. Importantly, this valuation makes use of a capitalization yield at 4.5% and rents at 250 euros. So we can share this with people that are interested after the call because it's a 3-page detailed report. Now, whilst it's good to have the valuation, I think it's also important that people understand the market that valuation sits in, i.e. some more context. So what we've done is we've broken down the analysis into 2 or 3 segments. Firstly, what is the sort of temperature on the ground for offices within Prime District 1 at the moment? Secondly, we look at the historical performance for that asset class over the last 8 years. And then finally, we look forward to see what could happen in the upcoming 8 years in terms of asset performance. So starting with the commentary and the temperature on the ground today, whether you pick up a Savills report, JLL, etc., you will see that they're all reporting very strong demand for office space within CBD1. And there's been a growing trend in terms of rental amounts that are being demanded. So that's a good starting point, gives you an idea of what the temperature on the ground is. Now, how is that translated in terms of actual deals being done? This is a CBRE snapshot of what has been happening in terms of transactions that have actually executed. The yields that have been applied have been between 4 and 4.5%. So that's very good because our valuation was done at a 4.5% yield, which is at the most conservative end of the yield valuation. So that's a good starting point. Also, this is a graph showing the demand versus supply mechanic. And you can see in light blue is where we have the demand, in dark blue is where you have the supply. And pretty much every year for the last 7 years, the demand has outpaced supply. So again, you're looking at a market which is structurally undersupplied. And if I was an investor looking to invest, this is probably a metric that I'd be very happy to see. In terms of take up of square meterage in the last year of 2022, that has meant 247,000 square meters have been taken up, again, evidencing the strong sort of demand, even post-COVID. So that's a good snapshot of the sort of supply and demand metrics and the temperature on the ground. Looking back historically, what has been the performance? And this is where we break down how the office rents have been performing in the last 8 years. And you can see here in the graph where the yellow line, and we're moving just as a graphical point of view upward and to the right. But what has that meant in terms of numbers? In the last 8 years, you've seen rents grow by approximately 39%. So just under 5% per annum. And then yields, those yields where we talked about 4 and 4.5% currently, they've actually been compressing, which is exactly what you would want to see, at an average of 42% over those 8 years, which is about 5% per annum. So that's a very good starting point in understanding the historical empirical data points. Now, the real question is, well, what do we expect the asset to do in the upcoming 8 years? Now, if we were to simply take the same growth trajectory that has happened in the last 8 years and apply it forward to the next 8 years, that would move the valuation of the asset from where we are today, from 47 million to approximately 69 million. Now, the question is, well, could that happen? Well, indeed, it has happened in the last 8 years. And whilst this sounds great, I think as an investor, we would want to do a more conservative analysis. And that's exactly what we've done, which is to say, well, let's ignore what has happened historically in the last 8 years, and let's just apply a more conservative growth rate of 3% per annum for the next 8 years. That would still move the asset from where we are today, at 47 million, to 59 million. So I think this sensitivity calculation is quite important when people are looking at this type of investment, because it allows them to get some comfort that yes, they're doing this for Golden Visa reasons, but obviously no one wants to lose money, and investing in a city center location where you have all of these data points allows you to do this sensitivity calculation in a way that perhaps instills confidence for investors. Now, I think if you look to the future in terms of how we expect the asset to perform and why we chose a 3% growth rate and why we're confident about that, I think whether you read the Savills reports, the CBRE reports that I've referred to, you'll see that they all talk about Lisbon compared to its European neighbors as being at a very sweet balancing point in terms of demand. Inflation is obviously hitting the world over, but the cost of living crisis has not hit Portugal as hard as it's hit some of the other European countries such as Spain and Italy, etc. So they are expecting that demand to continue, and therefore we expect there to be a pull to par effect in terms of the rental values. And then in terms of yields, at the moment we're at between 4 and 4.5%. In Lisbon, the European average is 3.63%. So do we expect yields to compress by at least 25 basis points in the next 8 years? I think the answer to that is yes as well. Now, I've obviously thrown a lot of facts and figures at you, trying to sort of go through the asset in some empirical data points. But the good news is that because Lisbon city centre is such an important artery within the landscape of Portugal, it's actually a very well reported location in terms of those yields and rental values, etc. So when you go away and Google these places post this Zoom, you'll see that whether it's PwC or other articles picking up on the fact that they are pointing to Lisbon as being one of the key investment points from a real estate perspective, both pre and post-COVID. And as I mentioned, WeWorks have now landed in Lisbon city centre. And again, I think that really supports the asset class that we're talking about in terms of office spaces. I think there are a couple of other things that people should keep in mind, which is the rest of the world type of analysis looking at Portugal. In our experience in the last sort of 18 months or 2 years, the US, funnily enough, has been the strongest investor base for us. And there's been a myriad of reasons that have been reported by our investors that are coming from the US. Some of them are lifestyle, like they want to retire there, they want to have a place in Europe. Others are a lot of these technopreneurs or cryptopreneurs who want to have a gateway into Europe through Portugal. And it seems like Lisbon and indeed some of the places by the beach are a reasonable starting point for them. Unfortunately, there are troubles in Latin America, Brazil, Argentina, etc. And because of the historical ties with Portugal, Portugal becomes a natural place for them to perhaps resettle and invest. And obviously now with China reopening post-COVID, we are expecting to see some of that growth that was driven by the Chinese pre-COVID to come back into the country. So I think that's a good sort of overall framework to think about this type of investment. As I say, it's a city centre investment in the centre of Lisbon. In terms of those cash flows, just so that people have it in their minds, going back to where I started, the investment is for 350,000. At the end in year 8, there is a buyback at market value. You can plug whatever value you think is most appropriate here, whether you want to go for the bullish view or the more conservative view. But importantly, there's income also along the way, which starts from a fixed point in time from July 2024. And indeed, under the promotion that we have, these first 3 years for the first 25 investors will be paid up front. So it has a cash flow benefit as well of 21,000. So just to summarize this, it's a opportunity to invest in the most prime central business district within Lisbon city centre. It's a Golden Visa eligible investment at 350,000. You do have the ability to earn income along the way, which is always nice. There's a natural exit point once you've realized your Golden Visa and citizenship ambitions. Back to us, we'll be the buyer of the investment back from investors. And it's easy and convenient going back to that audience that we think this will be most appealing to. And let's not forget that for a limited number of investors, we do have this upfront payment of the first 3 years of income, which helps people in terms of their investment and cash flow. So, Vicky, I think I've gone through the commercial investment at some length now. We were going to now pivot to the non-commercial investment, i.e. the residential investment. And unless you wanted to add anything in, I will pass it over to Rossi.
No, I think let's start with Rosie. We'll do the Q&As a bit later, but this is actually the first time we're showing you this property. I'm so excited because, you know, the Liberty project sold so quickly and I had people lining up for it even at the end when it was all gone. And we'll be actually doing a full launch when we're there in February for this project. So I actually had to muscle Rack and Rosie to try to get this out because it's really, really very popular in this area.
Indeed. Okay, so whilst this asset, because of its location and the fact that it's sort of set up to add convenience to people's lives, there are people that actually just prefer having their own residential investment. And I think we do also have that type of investment. So let me pass you over to Rosilia, who can talk you through our asset, which is in a location called Grandola and Comporta. These are just some of the pictures for SOSA. But let me hand you over to Rossi to talk about Sunhouse Comporta.
Thank you. Thank you, Rack. Okay, so I think that with that we learn about the commercial asset and all the details. Speaky and Rack mentioned commercial assets tend to be the most popular just because they are convenient, because people identify them as a trophy, as a protective investment. They feel safe, they feel peace of mind that everything is handled for them. However, there is still an audience that want to have a property, that want to enjoy Portugal, that want to spend some time in the country. And we're going to now present to you a residential project that will allow you to do that, because it's located in one of the most beautiful spots of Portugal. So the first thing to come back to is what already Andre and Rag has gone through, is that not every location will give eligibility to Golden Visa when we look at residential assets. So only the light blue area is going to give us the access. And within the light blue area, we need to be very surgical on where to invest. Why? Because historically, the interior is what is rural, the area that is more for local, lower income population. And therefore, we need to try and as much as possible locate ourselves either near Lisbon, the capital, or near the beach area, which can still have some very popular and wealthier location with an international audience. This is exactly what we are. Sandhouse Comporta is in the municipality of Grândola, in a beautiful location, 1 hour only from Lisbon, 20 minutes from the beach. It is an area that, if we move to the next slide and we zoom a little bit into that location, we see that is a beautiful combination in between natural countryside, park, protected park, and the beach. We are only 20 minutes from the beach, still in the city center of Grândola, surrounded by a beautiful natural park. Within 30 minutes drive, 8 different beaches in the beautiful Atlantic Ocean. We are going to see some of the real pictures later on. So let's move to some of the activities that we can enjoy in the micro location. There are very popular, well-known, high-end golf courses with international tournaments. Few also minutes drive from the project. We have, as we said, this is a lifestyle brand, a lifestyle location. So if we want to take the route of the Golden Visa, but we want to really be part of Portugal and enjoy the country, spend some time there, have a residential property, Comporta is the place to choose. It is an international brand that is actually founded these days easily in a Google search in all these media, whether it's Financial Times, Traveler, Bazaar, Forbes, etc. And one of the things that actually takes to our attention is on the right bottom side, Comporta, affordable luxury for holiday home buyers. So many says that Comporta is this new Ibiza, but in a very early stage where we can still find very affordable property to buy. We can also, if we move to the next slide, enjoy very high-end restaurants, beach clubs, and entertainment options. These are actually places, Vicky, we were not long ago, right, in Sublime Comporta, a beach club.
Yes, we were. Very beautiful. Great food.
It is beautiful, it's elegant, high-end, and it's really a nice lifestyle that it can offer. If we look into the hotels, also a big selection of 5-star hotels. So despite that this location, it is less populated, it's quiet in the countryside, we still find hotels that are very high-end, all of them with these eco-friendly concepts. This is Sublime Comporta on the countryside, minutes away from our project. And to actually put a bit of context, these rooms are actually rented for 1,000 euros the night. So we have an area that is a good mix still in between the traditional town side, but also a lot of luxury and high-end options that are coming up. This project is very much in line of that. 2 stories only, very protected area by the municipality. We cannot go higher. Let's remind ourselves that we are in the middle of protected parks and in the middle of the beautiful countryside. And total of 92 units, 56 studios, 28 1-bedroom, and 8 2-bedrooms. Units start at 280,000 euros and up to 385,000 euros, the 2-bedroom. We have a big selection of units that we can discuss one by one if anyone is interested. We have, this is not updated, but we have around 38 units now sold, also with quite popular. And again, attracting those that want to first access the Golden Visa at the very low entry point of 280,000 euros, but also get to really enjoy the property in Portugal. And second, at the same time that you enjoy the property and you're able to control what you want to do with the property, rent it out, use it, etc., you can have a good return out of it. What do we do with the return? It's a little bit different with the commercial option, because here we are going to have, as we said, full control, full ownership, freehold, and we decide what is going to be done. For convenience, Aris Capital Partners is going to help with that management. How do? We do it through our local partners on property management, and we have a first year of fixed rent, and after this, which is at 3%, and after the second year onward, we have the variable rent, which is estimated, and we have those studies available for you, in between a 4 and a 5% rental. Again, this is variable and will depend on occupancy, but for those that want to use it some time, to have it rented during the time that they are not using, this is a lovely option. In terms of timing, this is a bigger scale project timing, so we will have the return after the completion, which is expected on this last quarter of 2025. If we move ahead on to the next slide, we see an aerial view of the project. 92 units divided into 3 buildings, building A, B, and C. Building A has studios on the swimming pool side. On the lower, we have those ones beautiful with swimming pool decks on the same pool, which are very attractive. On the back side, we have the 2-bedroom unit. Building B and C are a mix of studios and 1 bedroom. The ground floors, all of them with garden. The top floors, all of them with rooftop terraces. This is something that is signature of this project. Each unit has a very large outdoor space, almost as large as the interior. And this is very important because with the beautiful weather of Portugal, we will be using it very much. On-site gym, swimming pool, almost 300 square meters, all of that for private use of the community. Beautiful finishes, high-end. The properties are handed over fully fitted and with the kitchen appliances included. The furniture is optional and an additional cost. We can discuss all those details with any of you that is interested. Also discuss what are the best units available. And this will be through Vicky. She can book meetings and we will be happy to assist. These are some lovely images of the town of Comporta, of Grandula, where Comporta belongs, but this is the interior, the city center. We'll see some of them. And now we go to the plots. We'll see the plot side. Again, as we said, a beautiful countryside, 2 different properties, 2 different concepts that now my colleague is gonna summarize on, so you can have the last overview on what are the 2 options and what are the differences in between. Thank you.
So thanks, Rossi. And indeed, these are some of those images that are actual images, not CGIs, from the locations. You can see how beautiful it really is. Now, I appreciate that we've probably thrown a lot of information out there in terms of the investment types. And just to summarize, we have this slide, which obviously we can share with you after the call. But really, I just want to highlight the differences between the 2 investments that we've put forward today. One of them is commercial and one of them is residential. I think the first most important difference is the price, because in order to invest in a commercial investment that is Golden Visa eligible, it must be for 350,000, and the residential is for 280,000. The location is obviously key in that analysis, because the location for the commercial asset is in the city center of Lisbon. In fact, it's in the prime business district, so you can't get much better in terms of prime location. And then the residential one is in this area called Grandiola and Comporta. And as Rossi mentioned, it's been very well picked up by all of the lifestyle talking heads in terms of being the next Ibiza, etc. So if you're looking for that possibility of capital growth in years to come, you might consider that this fits that bill quite nicely. And then in terms of the income that is available on both of these, for the commercial asset, it is a fixed return for pretty much the entirety of the investment. And for the residential, because you will be the owner of your own individual apartment, you'll be a freehold owner. The income there is an optional for 1 year at 3%. And finally, the key point is that at the end of the investment period, what do you do once you've realized your Golden Visa ambitions? Well, for the commercial, there is a buyback available. So you have that natural exit liquidity. For the residential, because you have your own individual title deed, there's no buyback from us, but you can obviously exit into the market whenever you've realized your Golden Visa ambition. So that's a summary of the two investments. There's a lot of detail there which we can share on a one-on-one basis. But Vicky, why don't I hand it back to you now and maybe go through some of those Q&As that undoubtedly people will have.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rak. It's now time for our Q&A. We have a lot of questions, and we've actually tried to type in and answer the questions for the rest because there were really a lot. I guess we'll take the first question, and the first question is for Andre. How fast does the process take place, Andre?
So the process, there's an initial stage, of course, which is when you need to look at the property that you're going to invest, decide, and even prepare the getting tax ID number, opening bank account, and that stage might take maybe 2 to 4 months in terms of preparation before you can actually submit your pre-application. Okay, after you do that pre-application, there's a waiting period that now can go from 6 to 12 months until you are able to visit Portugal to collect fingerprints. So let's say that I would always consider at the present stage, because we might have some news during the year, because the government has already announced some changes in the way the immigration is organized. But I think that you could consider like 12 to 18 months before you can actually have the residency card. Okay. And then it's the normal process of residency card, valid for 2 years, renewable every 2 years.
Thank you. I think this question are for the developers, either Rak or Rosie. What are the yearly fees for the property management of Comporta? What are the typical appreciation values of residential properties in the Comporta area?
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Go on, Rosie. Go on, you carry on.
Okay, sorry. To start with the condominium fees, what we can expect is that they go from 150 euros to 250, 280 euros, depending on the typology, paid monthly, and this is for the maintenance of the common areas, from the swimming pool, the gym, the gardening, etc. Then in terms of the property, appreciation, we talked during the presentation about the global in Portugal being from a 5 to a 12% yearly. Now, Comporta is actually one of the areas that has been behaving the best, and this is since COVID, because I think we experienced all over the world that many people felt during the lockdown time that the city was a little bit claustrophobic, and we've seen quite a big movement from people from the city to this countryside where they felt outdoors freedom, etc. And this actually continues still these days. So we could probably forecast around a 5%, 3 to 5% to be conservative. However, keeping in mind that we have seen much larger numbers in the last few years because of this reason.
Thank you, Rosie. Again, this is, I guess, for the lawyers. At what stage or estimated month in the application process will we have an idea if an application is approved or rejected, although we've not seen a rejection? But I guess, Andre, would you like to take that?
Yeah, no, it's really unlikely to have a refusal. So we prepare very carefully each application. And in our experience and as a law firm, we never got a refusal. What can sometimes happen is that it can delay because sometimes it's difficult to process documentation, not in the case of Philippines, which is not difficult to get documentation in the public authorities, but in some countries it can be challenging. Sometimes even people are expats, they are not living in their country of origin, and so sometimes they also need to get documentation from countries where they have not been for many years, or countries that are facing political unrest, social unrest, and so it can be more challenging for these people. Also, do not forget then there is always, for documents that are issued by public authorities, we always need to have a legalization, okay, which requires also to either to have a apostille from like a Hague apostille, or they need to be legalized before a Portuguese embassy. So in some countries where you do not have an embassy, this can also be difficult. In the Philippines, fortunately, we have the Philippines is a member of the Hague Convention and makes life easier for everyone.
Great, thank you. After getting the golden visa, can I sell the property immediately? Rak, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the requirements for qualifying under the Golden Visa program are to hold a qualifying property for the 5 years and meet the conditions within those 5 years of staying in the country for 7 days a year and keeping a clean criminal record, etc. Once you've achieved that status, i.e. those 5 years have been complete, it is possible to move on to the next stage and then apply for either citizenship or permanent residency, and indeed dispose of the property, i.e. you're not required to keep the property once you have met the qualifying period, which is those 5 years. In terms of the technicalities of the exact timing of when you can dispose, Andre, I think you may have some practical inputs on that, because sometimes, as much as the law is prescriptive, there are practicalities to consider as well. So I don't know if you want to add into that.
So in terms of the property is the investment, the purchase that you make, you purchase a property, and that's the investment activity that is regarded by the government. You need to keep it for 5 years. You need to keep it if you want to keep the golden visa. So we also have clients, let's say early clients that started already 8 years ago. They do not want to get a passport, but they want to keep this golden visa status. So they just need to keep the property in their. They cannot sell if they want to keep the golden visa permit. If you, after 5 years, if you are able to submit your passport application, in that situation, you are allowed to sell it, and you can fully recover the funds. So we also have the other clients that they got the passport, but they see the investments as very interesting, and because they have portfolio investments and they see Portuguese market appreciating, and they want to keep it because it's generating income, it's a good investment, it's safe, and they would want to keep it. And sometimes they also can use it when they come to Portugal. So this will depend on each client, let's say, specific attitude toward their portfolio of investment.
Thank you. There's another question. Hold on. How much tax is imposed on income? I guess, Andre?
So how much tax?
How much tax is imposed on income? I guess I believe income on the investment.
Okay, so there are two, in terms of taxation, I think it's important to have in mind 3 types of taxes. There are one group of taxes that you pay when you buy the property, okay? We call it the property transfer taxes, okay? Which are calculated over the property price. Then second, you also have the real estate tax that is charged every year by the fact that you own a property, okay? It's a very small amount that is charged by the government, okay? And finally, you also need to consider if the property is generating income. So if you are being paid rent, then you should consider 28% tax on the net income. So net income means on the rents less the costs associated to that property, the government will tax 28% over that net income. And this is reported every year. Of course, we can also provide that assistance, our tax department. So from April to June, you report the income that you got in the preceding year.
Okay, so tax for long-term income is 28% on the long-term rentals. For short-term rentals like the Comporta one, after the 1 year, if you do the Airbnb, it's, I believe, a reduced income tax of like 12.5%. Is that right, Andre?
Yeah, on short-term rental income, it's a bit different, a bit more complex, but also more attractive. So it's more efficient from a tax perspective. Each client needs to be registered as a sort of a service provider, as a business, as an independent service provider. It's a category B income. There's also VAT associated. So it requires more tax compliance, but it's more beneficial from a tax perspective, and the tax rate is much lower than the one that is charged on long-term rental.
Right. Thank you, Andre. And the question on the real estate tax, I know for commercial and residential, they're more or less at 0.3%. And most of the records of the municipality are dated. So actually, they would be much lower than 0.3. Am I correct, Andre?
Sorry, I could not understand, Vicky. Sorry.
So for a question, what is the real estate tax for commercial and residential properties?
Yeah, it's correct. So commercial properties, you pay more tax on those properties when you buy, okay, and also on the ownership of the property. And so residential is because it's so commercial will pay, let's for example for the purchase it will pay 6.5% plus 0.8% on stamp duty, so 7.3% on the property price. Residential will be a bit less than that, but it's calculated on a prorated basis.
Okay, so that is the acquisition tax. I think the question was the real estate tax annually, the property taxes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. So the real estate the real estate tax is 0.3 to 0.4%, okay, more or less that on the tax property values, which is not even the market value of the property. Usually it's around half of that property market. So I would say that for an investment of 350, maybe this is going to be like 300 euros per year, something like that. Not significant tax. Okay, it's not 300, 500 to 500 euros. Okay.
Wonderful, thank you.
Vicky, sorry, Vicky. Can I add a quick note just to give to apply all of these to these two opportunities that we presented. So municipality tax, annual tax in the studios in some house comporta will be around these 500-600 euros annually. However, in the commercial opportunity, the rental is paid net of this. So the clients will not be paying any municipality tax yearly. This is already paid by Aris Capital Partners because the rental that we pay is net. Just to clarify this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that, Rosie. There's another question already there. I guess, Rack or Rosie. For the residential property, furnitures are not included. More or less, how much do we need to have if it is fully furnished? So I know we have like models for studios, 1 bedrooms, and bigger units.
20,000 euros studios, 1 bedroom, and 24,000 euros the 2 bedrooms plus VAT.
Okay, wonderful. There's one very important question. I see we have a lot of questions, but I am also mindful of time. So we are free to have free consultations with the lawyers and the developers, privately with everybody at your convenience. But I think this one other question is very important. Why Portugal over Spain? I know that Andre has answered the question by one of the viewers, but also Rosalia is Spanish herself, which is why I'd like to pose this question to probably both of you.
Okay. Vicky, I think that first to say that I understand we do have strong link with Philippines, so there is a natural always tendency to think on Spain from Filipinos. Portugal, for those that haven't visited, is a beautiful Mediterranean country, as I said, with a very similar culture. So we can expect really to receive the same from Portugal in terms of lifestyle. But now to become a little bit more technical, there are 3 things that we need to consider when we actually look into the Golden Visa in both the countries. So Spain does have also a Golden Visa program that was implemented around the same time. However, it has 3 differences that are quite significant. First of them is that we have a minimum invested of 500,000 euros in Spain, which cannot be reduced irrespective of the property we invest in. So in Portugal, we've seen that while the standard is 500,000 euros, we can reduce it to 350, 280, and indeed these are the investment opportunities that we have presented. So Spain, 500,000 euros, no reduction. Second thing, the Golden Visa in Spain does not lead you to the passport. So if the aim of a Filipino family is to eventually have a European passport, Spain will not be able to facilitate this. It will be required to move to the country. For Philippines, as ex-colony of Spain, it's a shorter time. So it's 2 years plus another year until I wait for my passport. So I need to calculate around 3 years and a half that I need to move. Now, this for many of the families is not possible because you have your job, your businesses, etc. in your home country. And this is sometimes a little bit of a difficulty in planning logistics. But even if it was, even if I say, okay, let's move everyone and let's make possible this 3 year time in Spain. The moment that I move my residency to Spain, that I live in Spain, I will become tax resident in Spain. And that is very, actually, Spain is very different in terms of taxes. It is, it has to start a tax which Portugal doesn't have. So the first thing that it will happen is that I will be taxed for all my wealth worldwide. And this includes my financial assets. I will have to declare all the balances in all my accounts worldwide. I will have to declare all my real estate assets, everything that I own, and then at the end pay, depending on the size of my wealth, up to a 3.5% annually. Portugal does not have and never had a wealth tax. So when I do my tax return, even if I actually move to Portugal and I become tax resident there, I don't pay taxes on my wealth, only on income. So this is a huge, huge difference. Second thing in taxes, also relevant, is that Spain has, depending on the region, it has a tax on donation and heritage that it can go up to a 35%. Portugal does not have any of them if it's to my immediate successors. Yeah. So this is, again, if I'm investing in property with the intention that one day this will be for my kids in Spain, I may be taxed, they may be taxed then in 35%. So very actually expensive exercise to choose Spain over Portugal, and also it would require a lot more planning because I would have to move if I want that passport. I hope that clarifies.
Thank you, Rosie. Very, very nice explanation. Would you like to add to that, Andre? Anything you'd like to add?
No, it's okay. It was very, I think I had already provided some clarification, but Rosalia, of course, gave a good input on this.
Thank you. I guess I'll take the last question. What are the requirements in order to maintain the visa? I always say this, there are only 3 things you need to do. Number 1, you have to keep the investment throughout the residency program. No? Number 2, you would have to go there an average of 7 days a year only. And number 3, and lastly, I tell everybody, please be good and stay away from jail, because we'll still need a clear NBI clearance throughout the renewals up until we apply for your Portuguese passport. And really, that's it. So it's a very, very good program. I was very passionate about this program. Guys, I cannot tell you how when I brought this program to the Philippines and when I learned about it, it gave me sleepless nights that I had to go to Portugal and see it for myself and make sure this is a country I could even visualize myself raising and keeping my family. And it was indeed a very nice, safe country. It was beautiful. And I just needed to make sure the investments were sound. My background in the US, as well as my husband's background, we've been real estate brokers for the longest time here, like really long time. I'm old, but you know, I had to make sure, because I was selling this to my co-parents, because at that time my daughter was only 12, and I saw the opportunity that we could give our children. And when I brought this to the Philippines, it was really all about helping people. I did not imagine it would, become so big. We have, as of today, processed way over 100 Golden Visa applications with 100% success rate. I am local. People that I've sold to are friends, so it's been word of mouth for me. I feel very blessed, but I also think that with this blessing was because there was good intentions, and it was really all heart when I started. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have my number, and we are very much willing and able to speak with you for private Zooms, free consultation with a lawyer, and help you to make this life-changing decision for your families. It's the start of a new year. It's going to be Chinese New Year next week, Gong Fai Fat Choi, and I hope that we all plan ahead for the future of our families, especially for us Filipinos, where our passport, as we know, does not really take us to a lot of places. So let's do it for our children and their children's children. Have a good day, everyone. You can reach me. My number. Can we post my number on the screen? But it is, everybody has it. It's 0917-856-1237. My email is also available. And I don't know why it's not here, but ladies and gentlemen, everybody knows, even in Manila House, they know how to reach me. I'm also a member. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Irish Capital, Pinto Ribeiro, and everybody else. Thank you to our audience for staying tuned with us. Have a good day.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. And
Thank you, everyone.
thank you for joining us today. Thank you. You've become friends to us already. We're always together every month. And please don't forget that for face-to-face event, so you have a chance to meet the principals behind this series of talks. Please join us on February 22. Am I right?
Yes, Bambina.
Yes. And more details
you.
will be forthcoming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks again, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.